Raphaël, welcome.
Thank you.
Big story today, this draft constitution. I think that was a fair question a reporter asked. Who's been asking for this? And the answer is apparently no one. But according to the Justice Minister, no. This has been going on for, how long did he say?
200 years.
200 years.
Yeah.
So finally they got it done. What's
Finally,
this about, really?
Finally. Well, I would say there's no appetite for Constitution because the majority of the population at home doesn't really know what's the Constitution
Right.
and what the impact of it will be in their daily lives. And I understand that it might seem far away from your daily priorities right now, whereas people are struggling to make ends meet right now. But still, it's an interesting piece of legislation. I'm a bit of a nerd here, so of course I'm interested in the topic. It's not the first time that a government talks about a Quebec Constitution. I mean, if we look at our recent history, Paul Gingras-Lajoie, in the 1960s, when he was a Liberal minister, already thought about this. So it's nothing new in the political area, at least. But for the population, I understand that it's not necessarily of the utmost importance right now.
But what's the criticism here, and there's been plenty of it, which is, I guess, to be expected, is it's kind of what the CAQ always does. They introduce something first and consult later if they consult at all. Is that the concern here?
Well, that comes from it was one of the main conclusions or recommendations of the Proulx-Rousseau committee last year to give Quebec, for once and for all, a constitution within the constitutional framework of Canada, of course. But the thing is, and I have an issue with that too, is that they came up with that project, with that bill that they tabled today at the National Assembly, and without further consulting. If we had a committee to look at what should Quebec do and should Quebec have a constitution, why not give to this committee or another committee, for instance, the task to write a draft constitution instead of having it drafted directly within the minister's office? So why not have an assembly? Why not consult civil society? Include First Nations, for instance, into those consultations so that people can have their voices heard. So that would have been interesting. But the question here is, the issue here is about time, because Legault knows that his tenure might come to an end pretty soon. So they don't have the luxury of time, and they need to table it. If François Legault really wants to make this a major piece of his legacy as premier, he needs to table it now so that it can be adopted before the end of the current term.
To your point, though, do people really care? I mean, I understand, he wants to say, look, I introduced the Constitution, as looking back on his legacy. Mm-hmm. The average Joe in the street, do you think, even in the regions, do you think this is going to resonate?
Oh, no, probably not. It's just, I think it's more of a symbol here. We're talking about symbols. When you're talking about amending the Canadian Constitution to include values and principles that are of the utmost importance to a majority of Quebecers, I think here we're talking most of all about symbols. And this is a nationalist government. Nationalism is oftentimes about symbols. So it's a major symbol for a government that pretends to be a nationalist government. But at the same time, is it going to change anything in our daily lives? I think there are some very interesting elements still there. When we talk about protecting the rights of women to choose for themselves, when we talk about protecting the right to abortion, the right of Quebecers to have access to services when it comes to ending your life, medical aid in dying, that is all things that should be protected. And here, what the Quebec government is saying is that we have a Canadian Constitution that puts a lot of importance about religions, but here in Quebec, we are a secular society, and these rights, the right to abortion, the right to having medical aid to die, these rights should not be confronted to the right of religions, for instance.
What's in this with respect to the rest of the country, to Canada? Because there was an acknowledgement here, and I think you may have heard Simon Jolin Barrette say this at one point today. We're still part of Canada here, which was nice to hear. Mm-hmm. But that's mentioned in here, right? That's specifically pointed out.
Oh, yes. Well, the Constitution, actually, this is something the Canadian Constitution allows provinces to do. So We're not the first ones to do that, mm-hmm. by the way. British Columbia has done it almost 30 years ago. In 1996, they've adopted their own Constitution, and this Constitution is now included within the Canadian Constitution. So there's a section in the Canadian Constitution that pertains particularly to provinces, and all provinces are allowed to modify those chapters in the Canadian Constitution as much as they want. And this is what what Quebec is doing right now. So it's using its right to amend the Canadian Constitution wherever those chapters concern the province and the way it's run. So that's why we also have in this bill, for instance, elements that pertain to getting rid of symbols of the monarchy. The CAQ government wants to get rid of the title of lieutenant governor. So if the bill is adopted, the lieutenant governor of Quebec will from now on be called the officer of Quebec, for instance. So it's a lot of symbols, It's not clear on how, on a daily basis, and how courts of justice in the future will apply these principles in their future rulings. But it's symbolically, for a government that's a nationalist government, I think it sends a clear message to its base that it's acting, and it's acting to make sure that Quebec values and identity are protected as part of the Canadian Constitution's framework.
Let me move and talk about something happening municipally today. So I talked about this earlier on. We had Valérie Plante in here yesterday. It still seems like, for the most part, last Gazette poll had 62% of people saying it's time for change. They want change. Mm-hmm. We're going to be hearing a lot more from candidates because there has been nothing so far that's really, I guess, at least for people surveyed, that's made them say, wow, that's what I wanted to hear. That person has my vote. I mean, for right now, you have Soraya ahead, roughly 20-21% compared to Luc Rabouin's 12 or 13%. Mm-hmm. But then an announcement today, and this is one of the big issues people say for them, homelessness. What was this announcement?
One of the top priorities for Montreal voters at the moment is homelessness and housing. So, of course, very interesting here to hear about Ensemble Montréal's proposal to inject $100 million to build new shelters, but not just big shelters in the downtown core of Montreal, but also smaller shelters across the city. Yeah. Because now, homelessness has for many years been an issue that was particularly a reality here in downtown Montreal. But it's become, through the years, we see more and more homeless people across the city in different boroughs outside of the downtown core. So what they're saying is we're going to invest $100 million, that's major, $100 million to build smaller shelters across the city so we can deliver services to these people where they are. And this is very interesting because, for 8 years we've had an administration here under Valérie Plante, which was constantly whining about the fact that the Quebec government did not invest enough. But still, under Valérie Plante, on average, they were investing less than $10 million a year in prevention of homelessness. Only $10 million out of a budget of $7 billion. So Valérie Plante was a lot about it's Quebec's fault. It's not our responsibility. It's their jurisdiction. They should act about it. But at the same time, she was saying we have a humanitarian crisis here. But they didn't have the right priorities. See, so what Ensemble Montréal is saying is we're going to take the money that Projet Montréal planned for transforming Camillien-Hood Way on Mont Royal into a giant bike path. That's $100 million. So it's not new money they're coming up with. It's money they're just prioritizing on things that are more pressing issues at the moment, which is, of course, homelessness.
Now, I don't know. It seems pretty clever, does it not, of Ensemble to come up with this plan? Because the first question you'd say is, where are you getting $100 million from? But guess what? It's in the budget for something that I think a lot of Montrealers don't understand to begin with, which is why we're spending it to do Camillien-Hood.
It's a 1-2 punch. Isn't that how you say it in English?
Yeah.
So it's a 1-2 punch. People don't want to see, the majority of the population doesn't want to see Camillien-Hood being transformed into a bike path. Yeah. So getting rid of it. And on top of that, you take the money that was planned in the city's budget for that, and you apply it on an issue which Montrealers see as one of their top priorities. Very, very good announcement here today from Ensemble Montréal. And this could be, so far, Soraya Martinez-Ferrada has been leading in the polls, but I see this as probably a game changer in this election because we're 3 weeks away from the voting day, from election day, and this is something that could crystallize people's votes in favor of Ensemble Montréal and Soraya Martinez-Ferrada. So kudos to her. Finally, we have something that's exciting in this campaign.
You think people are paying attention?
I think they are. I think people see homelessness rising in their neighborhoods. I think people are worried about it. I think people want the city to act and not just whine about what other levels of government are doing or not doing. And right now we have here somebody who's saying, I'm going to take my responsibilities. I'm going to take the money we have in the bank and we're going to apply it on things that should be the priority of this city, not things that are useless and that people do not agree with.
We shall see. Raphael, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming in.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.